something like generating like 10 to 12 million a year in revenue. The bulk volume depend a little bit on the fees, but they do something like 30, 50 million a day, something like 2 billion a month. So we're pretty much just sprinting right now to get this out. This is our top goal. Our hope right now is we're targeting 2 months to get everything done. It's gonna be like there's these number of contract changes on the back end, and then fully filled out front end, make sure everyone's figuring it out. There's some uncertainty there though, mainly because there's kind of a number of moving parts here on like IBC, Eureka, the start milestones, there has to be certain software upgrades in the hub. So everyone's targeting 2 months, but I think 2 to 3 might be like a safer timeline.
All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of BidCast. I'm your host, Jason Kam, aka at Maple Leaf Cap. Today is April 11th, 2025, noon Hong Kong time. BidCast is being live streamed to BidClub members. Questions are from the members and my own. We plan to only cover liquid tokens and Web3 related equities in this podcast, where participants may own the instruments discussed. All opinions are our own, and BidClub is not being compensated for the content produced. Nothing we discuss is investment advice, nor do we believe there's any material non-public information in the episode. Today I'm speaking with Vishal, the co-founder of STRD. Vishal, welcome.
Hey Jason, thanks so much for having me on. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Why don't you tell us about your relationship with Magnus and Interchain Labs, who seems to be running Cosmos Hub these days? How do you get to know him, and what's your working relationship like?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe to start, I was one of the co-founders of STRD, a liquid staking protocol in Cosmos. We launched like 3 years ago. We actually were founded, I think, within a month or two of when Skip was first founded, or at least publicly announced. Skip was Mag and Barry's company that got acquired by the ICF. So this is in like March of 2022, maybe. And then September of 2022, I think we first met them at Cosmos. So it was right when STRD launched. Skip was just getting off the ground. They had like a MEV client that was getting like pretty rapid adoption. Started talking then, but we didn't have a professional relationship at the time. But just, we're around the same age. Just started companies in Cosmos. We were super excited about the space, had kind of a lot of same shared goals, I'd say. Then maybe like 6 or 12 months later, Skip started expanding far beyond MEV and doing a bunch of like IBC stuff. Like they started doing stuff for relayers or just generally consulting with teams for how they can improve the UX across chains. We started working with them then on some STRD like tokenomics stuff. So we're thinking about ways we can use the revenue, and in particular, could we like swap the revenue for STRD? At the time, this was kind of hard to do in Cosmos because all the DEXs are on different chains. So started working with them there on that. And then over the years, we worked with them quite a bit on IBC stuff. They've done quite a lot of like upstreaming to the IBC repo, and like 70% IBC traffic is run by Skipco today. And STRD is one of the largest IBC consuming chains. So we have a lot of work on kind of the IBC layer. And then Skipco also, we've done quite a lot. We integrated to the STRD website, getting feedback on it. It's their like primary front end widget. And we've worked with them to like integrate all of STRD's features through that. So it's been kind of a long journey. I would say the first year was maybe more social, and we worked together over the last 2 years. But over the last 6 months, we've been working together super closely, probably talking every day or two about kind of STRD's new endeavor with the Cosmos Hub and kind of what their dreams are for Atom and how we can help.
Yeah, I mean, we just spoke with them, and they basically asked 90% of the workforce took IBC in-house, and then basically chopped all of the external vendor relationship. And do you feel like they're sort of labor constrained at the moment? They have to outsource a lot of work to, folks like you and co-building things together? Or like, what's the working relationship like now that he's sort of at the helm of ICL driving value to Atom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are, they're definitely constrained, although I don't know if it's labor constraints. They actually, I think, inherited quite a large number of people at the ICF and ICL and with the IBC teams, the Cosmos teams, etc. My sense is they're really trying to focus in on a few core goals. Like when they kind of took over the ICF leadership, they have they had like kind of an uphill battle. Atom had been there has been struggling for a while. There was like not a clear product direction. There's a lot of like discontent, I would say, in the ecosystem, and I think they're truthfully been quite effective. I think they're trying to do a very targeted plan on like 3 big things or 2 or 3 big things they want to ship, focus entirely on that. And I think they actually have more like shrunk the organization to focus just on those goals. And I think as a result, they're trying to delegate like other subtasks to other teams. So like, for example, in our case, they know they want a lot of swap volume going through the hub. but
Yep.
they don't think they have the ability to like take that on when they're also kind of evangelizing the whole ecosystem. And so it's something we're helping them with.
We'll talk about that like in just a second. And on the Stride's core business today, if I'm not mistaken, you're the leading restaking protocol on Cosmos today, with
Uh,
about 40 million of TVL. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, there's one small thing: liquid staking, not restaking.
Liquid staking. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 million of TVL, just about.
Yeah, yeah. It's fallen a little bit in recent days given some of the price action Cosmos, but yeah, right around 40
Yeah.
million. Yeah. So
And walk me through how does that 40 million TVL sort of translate into fees to the protocol?
yeah. We have a very simple business model. Basically, you can think of it as the same as Lido. Every 6 hours or so, the protocol accumulates staking rewards from all the tokens that staked. 90% of those get sent to get reinvested and get auto compounded back to the LST holders. 10% gets taken as a fee to Stride. The vast majority of that revenue gets got used to buy and burn Stride. There like about 15% gets used as payments for security for the blockchain.
Yeah. So the math is 40 million TVL. Broadly, it's mostly Atom at the moment.
Yeah, Atom's our largest token, but we have 15 different LLCs. But like Atom, Tia, Osmo, DYDM, yeah, that's the
Okay.
majority.
And the blended yield is like 10 to 15%, just
Exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Okay. So 40 million times 10 to 15% yield times 10% tick rate times 80% sort of fee capture to Stride Treasury itself is about 500,000 of run rate revenue. Is that right?
Yeah, but right around there. I think it might be around 450, like trailing 7 day average, or if I remember correctly. But it fluctuates a little bit. Some of the yield is real yield from protocols like DYDX or Osmosis, for example. But
Mm,
I think it should be right around 450 to 475 right now.
got it. And I guess that's revenue going directly to token holders through
Uh,
direct buy.
exactly. Yeah, it's buyback and burn.
Okay, so how do you fund yourself then?
Yeah, well, we have been pretty fortunate. We had a seed round like almost like 3 years ago, and then we've
Mhm.
done one additional round of financing after that, and then the ICL is giving us some financing right now. So we've entirely funded through token sales.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. From previous rounds, and then plus ICL's grants. So you kind of don't have to sell tokens in the open market
E-
to sort of pay for
e-
it.
e- exactly. And actually, sorry, one clarification: ICF, not ICL. I misspoke.
ICF.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes. Very
yeah.
very important. Magnus was very keen on telling me that it's different entities and sort
Yeah,
of independent decisions. Okay, that makes
yeah.
sense. And do you give away any incentives at the moment of Stride to the stakers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the stakers we give a little bit. It's Stride has never been very inflationary, so it's around I think 2% staking yield with like a around 2% inflation rate as well.
Got it. Okay, so that's not that much. So people are really getting what they get from the base layer.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I guess one question that people are always wondering is, I mean, like Ethereum, I forgot what the number is. It's like it's like a 30, 40, 50%. Like a very high percentage are not only staked, but they're done through like things like Lido. Whereby for every other ecosystem, including Solana, I mean, like I'm supposed to talk to Sanctum, but everybody else, it's like extremely low liquid staking. Why do you think that is, and do you think there's ever a chance of getting it up?
yeah. No, it's a very good question, and actually I think we've seen almost the first counterexample recently because with Interchain,
Mm,
and I think it's actually somewhat consistent with Ethereum. I think there was a lot of like historical reasons for Lido. So when Lido came out and launched STETH, you actually like basically very difficult to actually stake ETH at the time. For a retail user, it was basically
mm,
inaccessible. Even for most institutions, just from a security perspective, the kind of infrastructure required, 32 ETH minimum. The fact that staking and kind of the risks associated were a little bit like um, I would say complicated or opaque to a lot of like fund managers. A
I
lot of
see.
people use Lido then, and then now that they've gotten so much adoption, they've become so institutional. ETH has by far the most vibrant DeFi ecosystem. That has kind of led to a huge adoption of ETH and it's kind of used kind of throughout DeFi. For other ecosystems, staking is much simpler, mostly because they've developed
Mm,
it or iterated on it. And so you really don't have to use LLCs unless you want to participate in DeFi. And right now, I think most chains, like the vast majority of tokens, are not in DeFi. They're kind of held on sexes or held in regular wallets.
mm,
So we see typically, I think, like 5% liquid staking rate for most ecosystems. The one
mm,
exception I would say, though, is Chain. I think for two reasons. One, it is quite hard to stake your Ibera. And as a result, like doing it through liquid staking provider is much easier.
Mm.
And their whole ecosystem is entirely geared around DeFi. So even the tokens held by like investors or insiders are often deployed in DeFi, and I think we've seen huge adoption there.
Mm. So do you expect that with Cosmos, like I think it's like 2% liquid staking, do you expect that number to go up meaningfully in the future, or is it pretty difficult?
Yeah, I think it can go up to like maybe 5 to 10% if DeFi goes up. Like Cosmos has a very immature DeFi market relative to other ecosystems, and I think we're getting to parity. They'll get that number up. To get
Mm.
really high numbers though, like we see on Ethereum or elsewhere, I think we'll have to see some real innovation on the LST layer or some big
Yeah.
increase in trust. Because I think those are probably the two things holding it back right now.
And people staking themselves on Atom is pretty easy. Just go to the hub and
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
You probably have to see some Ponzi pull 1, pull 2 games being played with the sort of liquid staked. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That.
or if it's something like, you could use the FC tokens in DeFi productively, maybe to earn fees or something. Then there's an
Mm.
additional reason to stake. But in general, I think for most LSTs, they're very restricted to just DeFi.
Mm. Do you foresee yourself ever needing capital by selling, tokens in the market or raise? Because I think you raised $12.2 million over time through 3 rounds of fundraising plus the grant from ICF. You're self-sufficient, I'm guessing, for a while with the burn today.
Yeah, exactly. I think our hope is to never have to sell STRD tokens in the open market.
Mm.
We've never done it. So as a company, actually, none of the founders have ever done so either. We I think it's something that it has kind of big implications. So you should be really confident when you want to do it. Like it's and I don't know if the protocol is at that level of maturity yet. We've been pretty lucky, I think, to be able to just take lots of funding from like investors who have long locks and are willing to support us.
Yep.
I think the hope is that the protocol becomes like much more revenue generating, and we can use that revenue to fund operational expenses. And we're a pretty lean team, so it
Mm.
should be feasible. We were actually cash flow positive a little bit earlier this year,
Okay.
but then token prices have gone down quite a bit, and yields have gone down a little bit as well. But even when we're cash flow positive, none
Mm.
of the revenue went to the labs or foundation entities. But in the future, yeah, the revenue is higher. I think that's our intended path to sustainability.
Sorry, and 80% goes to burn, but 20% goes to the team. And at one point, go ahead.
No, so sorry. Actually, 20% goes to Adam basically for providing security. Yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
none of it goes to the team. Yeah.
I see. So how do you break even?
Yeah. Maybe a misnomer. I just meant like the total revenue protocol was higher than total expenses, that like
Ah,
development costs, but we didn't
okay.
actually like carry them through. Yeah,
Okay, but you're still expensing salary, but I guess that's okay because you still have a huge war chest, plus the grants. Okay,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
in the next 2 3 years you'll be okay even if you step up, the number of staffs.
Yeah, I think next 2 years we should be okay.
Mm.
And then the hope is that with this new partnership, we can start generating some more revenue, and then can also use that to
Yeah,
extend runway.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That would get to the really exciting part because 500,000. I mean, the step up from 2 to 5 to 10% of liquid staking percentage is, I mean, we'll see. I don't know if Adam's going to pump so that like the 40 million turning into 500,000 of revenue. I don't know if that's going to like materially change in the future. But I think what's the most exciting, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that because of the management change that happened with Magnus at Adam, and because they need a lot of things being built in the Adams sort of Cosmos hub, namely the DEX, the liquidity staking, the lending, the whole DeFi ecosystem. Um, Tell me more about sort of your relationship with them and whether they're enshrining or sort of levying some sort of real growth effort that STRD is actively working on that may not be known by the market.
Yeah, absolutely. This just got announced very recently. We've been working with them super closely to build a DEX and kind of a whole DeFi suite on the Cosmos Hub. Maybe a little bit on the goal there, and how much of it is like enshrinement, how close they're working with them. The goal from them, I think but they've announced Eureka last week. That's been like a big product release. Like the hope is there's a lot of liquidity on Ethereum, Solana, a bunch of other chains. They can bridge over to these new Cosmos chains like Babylon. But it seems like a very compelling product offering. They have like 10 or so customers already, all of which are very large chains, a bunch more in the
Mm.
pipeline. But to enable that, I think they need a high quality DEX on the Cosmos Hub in order to be able to like actually like bridge volumes over, allow people to swap from token A to token B. and also to kind of help bootstrap a DeFi ecosystem on the hub they're trying to help build. And we talked to them about this vision for quite a while, and we're pretty excited about it. And so they wanted us to kind of build this DEX on the Cosmos Hub with the goal of serving these Eureka chains. So that's kind of like what the original intent was. And then maybe a secondary goal is also to help kind of bootstrap this DeFi ecosystem on the Cosmos Hub. In terms of kind of how the relationship actually goes, we work with them pretty closely. This is predominantly in like a goal setting, I would say, or kind of aligning on what it's important to focus on. We talked with them quite a bit about what their vision is for Atom, who they see as the users in the first 90 days, first 6 months, 1 year. How can we help unlock those users? How can we help like optimize the product for those people? We do that pretty close with them, as well as kind of get technical help. Like we've had a number of years of experience with the Cosmos SDK, IBC, etc. So we help out if they're like blocked on something there. And in return, we get to be super close to kind of what they're thinking, what they're deploying, get really close to like who the users are and who we're trying to build for. And in that sense, we are very closely kind of working with them, know the roadmap, kind of help guide that roadmap. But it's not enshrinement in that no one else is allowed to build a DEX. Like anyone can come build in the Cosmos Hub, and I don't think they're opposed to supporting other DEXs either. I think that partnership with us is they really have an acute need for a very high quality DEX next, like immediately actually to help serve these users, and we want to help do that. But it's not that no other DEXs can exist in the Cosmos Hub. Yeah.
Very clear. And then this will be like a Uniswap V2, V3, V4 type of equivalent. And the difference between that and Osmosis is what?
Yeah, great question. They're quite different. So Osmosis is kind of a L1. It's built in the Cosmos SDK, and almost all the swapping logic happens on the actual protocol layer. So you have like the actual code that binds the blockchain together. As a result, they do a lot of kind of custom stuff. So their chain can do like all sorts of kind of custom types of trading strategies or CL deployments or whatever it is. On the flip side, we can actually like plug into lots of other applications. So in particular, Eureka, because it all goes through the Cosmos Hub, that flow can't go to Osmosis, and that can kind of only be internalized by the Cosmos Hub. And like other DeFi apps in the Cosmos Hub, it's much easier to make like a call to a smart contract lives on your chain, as opposed to having to do some bridge to another chain, get funds back, whatever it is.
And when they turn it on, I mean, Magnus is pretty shy about this, but Rabby, Phantom, MetaMask directly to you, Kepler still, is that the right way to think about this?
So one type, sorry, I don't think I quite
like basically, can I use Rabby and MetaMask with your DEX?
Oh yeah. So sorry. Yeah. I believe so. I think that's the exact timeline on this is a little unclear, and they're kind of working through it. But the hope is that this should be, but all the customers are using like all sorts of wallets. Like the hope is that they're bridging people from Phantom, MetaMask, like over to like all sorts of really niche wallets, and the hope is that we can be supported by basically all of them with native integration. So your assets in the Cosmos Hub, yeah.
And they bring TVL and volume to you. And then
So it's a great question. So two fronts. So one, we're working with them on kind of using their treasury to help like bootstrap DeFi. They're still kind of trying to work through, I'd say, with the legal team on what exactly they're able to do there. But we're, I think, tightly aligned on the goal of they have quite a large war chest, and they really want DeFi to happen very soon. Working with them pretty closely on like how they can kind of help make that happen. And then the second thing is on the actual order flow. So I think there's two ways of order flow we're hoping to get from that we are getting from them. So the first is order flow from Eureka chains. So people are swapping, from Eureka, will be the DEX in the Cosmos Hub. That's going to be the centerpiece for all these transactions. We can process all that swapping. And the second is they run Cosmos Go, which is the largest IBC aggregator, or Cosmos aggregator. It actually serves a whole bunch of chains. If you guys haven't checked it out, I would definitely go check it out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Fun. Good URL. Yeah, it's great. You can swap from any chain to any other chain. But we're doing a preferred partnership with them there, where for any swaps that go through there, if we have competitive execution price, because the UX ends up being better for users, a lot of those swaps will go through us. Yeah. They do around 70% IBC volume today.
Oh, that's interesting. That's the skip go. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's SkipGo. I would say it's like the canonical front end for SkipGo, although people can also plug into SkipGo through an API.
Oh, interesting. So walk me through. So when your DEX is live and running, let's say they seeded it with like 50 million TVL, just for example. And let's say for whatever reason, I want to swap from Solana, right, like Sol, and directly to USDC on Osmosis, right, for example, and I'm hooked up with Eureka. Um, in my mind, the flow goes like through Eureka, the Solana gets bridged onto Atom Cosmos Hub,
Hmm.
swap through aggregated through swap through DEX of the Cosmos Hub's choice, and then through IBC bridged to Osmosis as USDC. Is that a right way to think about this?
Exactly. And the one caveat is that will be
Mm,
that's like the intended path, and that's the path that'll have the best UX for users, like fastest thing, least number of transactions. But if the execution price is bad in that route, like let's say like you're trying to go
mm,
from Shiba Inu coin over, and it's like actually we don't have good liquidity on that, then I think I'll fall back to whatever like the best X is that gives you that price. But there's some trade off there on UX and price.
I see. So if Osmosis for whatever reason basically forked Eureka with their own treasury, and
Hmm.
they can also hook it up with Solana, and then basically the Eureka bridge would not sort of, it might prioritize Atom, but it doesn't have to. Like it could just like hop, and then in that case, um, your DEX on Cosmos Hub would not get the volume.
Yeah, so it's a great point. So if there's like someone that wants to spin up like other liquidity for these types of things, and then we don't do a good job of targeting that. We don't want users to go through our decks. Like if they're getting a much worse price, it's worse for them. They're
Mm,
not going to like the product, not going to use it.
mm,
But this exact case, I think, is not really possible to happen. And the
yeah.
reason is Eureka is like a combined product offering with the ICF and Atom, and so it's the bridge over to Ethereum or Solana, etc. But it's also a bridge to your chain that you agree will kind of be canonical. So let's say like Babylon signs up for this, they kind of agree that this bridge over to Atom is canonical, and then they'll use the Skip Go routes and or I think Cosmos Go rebranded routes and market
Mm,
makers, etc., to help do onboarding flow. If
mm,
Osmosis did like another IBC connection, I think this aggregator would just ignore it because it treats only this route as canonical.
mm.
Um,
And,
does that
and
make
let's say
sense?
there are a lot of DEXs being sprouted up. I doubt they're going to get the same level of TVL as you do. But let's say they get some TVL, and then through Cosmos Go, some volume gets routed over, and let's say it is a transactional volume. Um, uh, that's when you get paid. Like, okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And what does a preferred partner mean in that case? Because it would seem like they would just split the order flow based on the fill.
Yeah, so I think they will split the order flow based on the fill if the fill is sufficiently bad. But preferred partner, I think, is um, there's like the optimization for aggregator. I think isn't always just like cheapest or best execution price.
Mm,
They do like some mixed weighting of like speed, UX, maybe like number of transactions to user. They don't have to. Like some aggregators, I think, do obviously just do best price. Like Jupiter doesn't make sense
mm,
to consider this. Like all the swaps are atomic, just give you the best price. For them, they have like some goal there. And so for us, because we're kind of heavily optimizing around the UX here, um, we're hoping to
mm,
build around the Eureka chains. And then the preferred partnership is if our best price is within a tight band of the next best option. So let's say
mm,
there's making up a number here, but 10 basis points or 20 basis points of the next best option. But
mm.
because the UX better with the preferred partner, we'll still get that flow.
Oh, okay, so it is quite nice. And
Yeah.
is it on paper anywhere, or is it just like, we like each other? That's why we're offering to.
Yeah, so we've kind of put together docs and sent this through. Some of this I think is uh, everything's written down. I would say we're very in
Mm,
tight sync around what we're trying to do here, and
mm.
not all of it I think can be like uh,
This close,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Mm.
yeah.
Interesting. And how soon do you think this will be live? The product that you're building, like when is the first dollar of swap? Because IBC, your is already live, right? So like, when is it gonna flow through your product?
Yeah, so we're very much just sprinting right now to get this out. Like this is our top goal. Our
Yeah.
hope right now is we're targeting 2 months to get everything done. It's going to be like there's these number of contract changes on the back end, and then
Mm,
fully build out front end, make sure everything works through Eureka. There's some uncertainty there though, mainly because there's kind of a number of moving parts here on like IBC. I mean Eureka, certain milestones, and there has to be certain software upgrades in the hub. So everyone's targeting 2 months, but I think 2 to 3 might be like a safer timeline.
And are you aware of any uh, other DEXs that are doing similar things? on the
Um,
Cosmos Hub?
yeah, I'm not aware of others on the Cosmos Hub. There is a really great team called Ellis that is working super close to the Cosmos Hub. They have
Mm,
like kind of a whole DeFi suite, so they do like perps, but they also do spot. But they're also their own chain, just kind of centered around Atom.
yeah,
So far, we haven't heard of anyone else kind of building specifically on the Cosmos Hub DEX.
yeah.
Although I think given Eureka just launched and there's kind of all this excitement, it's inevitable.
Yeah, and then the fee structure. And to be very clear, there are three types of flows that could happen. The first type of flow is the transfer. So like it is USDC on Solana to Atom, you would not get that. It's just done. The second type is Sol to USDC go on your hub. You are chosen by the Cosmos Go aggregator, and you get the fee. The third type is for some reason people want to ape some coins on, and because you're the largest DEX, they ape on you, and you also get the fee. Um, on the latter two cases, what kind of fee structure should we be thinking about here?
Yeah, I think we haven't finalized anything, but we're thinking right now is kind of mirroring osmosis. That's what a lot of osmosis users are familiar with. It seems pretty healthy and sustainable. Like they have good market share and also pretty healthy revenues. That's something like 10 basis points for most swaps, but
Mm,
with certain pools having fee discounts depending on how important strategically important they are, or if there's like promotional period or something. The one additional thing I would add is on top of these two, or the three users you outlined, I think there's also two other kinds of users that I'm mentioning. One is just
mm,
the aggregator users. So people who are just like generally using
mm,
aggregators to move around ecosystems. A lot of that I think we'll also capture. And then the
mm,
last is I think we're hoping to be the most like Atom aligned DEX. So anyone who's been in Cosmos for a long time or is like a real Cosmos OG, we're hoping to make kind of a really great product for them.
yeah.
And will be the place that they and a big part of that is that
Mm,
we're really trying to make Atom and Stride very value aligned. And so a good portion of Stride revenue will be used to buy and burn Atom. Using the DEX will help use Atom as transaction fees. So trying to get that in line as well.
okay. Those are really good points. I want to get to them one by one. So if it's like a 1% pool, you will charge 10 bips on top of it, effectively, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then of the fee that you accrue in those volume, how should I think about the split of that to your team, the Stride, and Atom?
Yeah. So right now, I would say the the majority of it like will go to Stride token. Most likely buyback and burn, although possibly buyback and LP. We're kind of actively evaluating the two and listening to
Yep,
people's feedback. And
yep.
then the other minority of it, but still a healthy chunk, will go to buy and burn Atom, or buy an LP. I think it kind of defer to Mag and Barry on what they think is best.
Mm,
Right now, none of it will go to the team. I think the hope is that we'll get the DEX to large amounts of profitability. Like even Osmosis has, I think, around $10 or $12 million a year in revenue. Fluctuates quite a bit, but ballpark there. We're hoping to kind of take a small chunk of this out to
mm,
cover kind of operational expenses.
yep.
But nothing's proposed yet, and I think we're hoping to only do it if and when the DEX is successful.
That makes sense. What's it going to be called? You don't have to say.
Um,
You don't have to tell me if it's still
yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
works. Uh,
It's still in the works. I'd say we're like 98% there, but like
yeah, yeah,
not everyone's fully happy with it, so it might change. But
yeah. Fair enough.
we'll
I
see.
think coming up with a name is always the hardest.
It's
Funny
hard.
enough.
Yeah. We also have a lot of stakeholders, right? So it's like a lot of people in the Stride team, you have a lot of people who, and everyone feels strongly about names. So a lot of people on the Stride side, but then also people from the Cosmos community or the ICF. A lot of people
Mm.
have lots of thoughts, and so there's a lot of good ideas, but it's hard to pick one.
What would uh what would success look like to you if this product works? Like to you, what would make you happy? Any milestones that you're thinking about that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say probably like there's some tiers, like some stages. Early on, would be very happy if we serve like the majority of Cosmos users. And that's like our first goal. So think users who have wallets on Cosmos chains, where are they swapping spot? If we're the place the majority of them go, that's a huge first win, and they can get there early on like that. We should be able to do shortly after launch, or that's kind of going to be our goal. Pretty soon after that, I think our hope is to just process a ton of volume. I think by end of this year, we're hoping to do something similar to what Osmosis does today. So
Mm.
I think something like generating something like 10 and 12 million a year in revenue. The volume would depend a little bit on the fees, but they do something like 30, 50 million a day, something like, 2 billion a month. I think we're
Yeah.
hoping to get something like that pretty, like hopefully not by the end of the year, but this year. And
Mm.
then after that, I think a lot of our growth from that point, I would say that's kind of us growing into and winning the market that we're in. And I think from
Mm,
that point, a lot of the kind of milestones that make us happy is growing one, the DeFi ecosystem on the hub, but I think more importantly, the Eureka ecosystem. And the second one is probably going to be a big part of our focus. So how can we get like more and more big customers to join to Eureka? How to make the value prop bigger? Ultimately, every Eureka customer is like just more volume and more users for us. So I want to start
mm,
dominating that. And I think that the next goal there is really like get the Eureka like IBC ecosystem to be the largest bridge in crypto. Like Mag said, do 20 billion a month and bridge volume from that, and then our fees can be, I think then the Cosmos Hub would really be like a router for all of crypto, and there's tons of value to be
mm.
created and lots of fees to generate there.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things. Like one of them is serving as BD function for Cosmos Hub / Eureka.
Mhm.
And the second part is potentially more DeFi products beyond just the UniV3 fork that you did. Can you expand more on that? Like, how is your BD approach going to be different than Magnus's? And then when you talk about, it's probably like at least a year down the road when you build products, but what would those products look like if you were to build them?
Yeah, totally. I think at least early on, very much focused on the DEX, but trying to help like whatever needs these teams might have. So part of the BD function, I think, is also just like you want more salespeople to kind of like hype up the value that Eureka can bring. So Mag and Barry
Mm,
obviously do a great job of that, kind of follow on that. But then specifically on the deck side, I think a lot of chains have a lot of like onboarding, huge pain point. Like there's basically been like only a handful of times in crypto I think I've onboarded onto an app and it's been like reasonably like easy. I think
mm,
it's always a big drop off point for chains. Uh, we're hoping to kind of help make that good for those people or those chains. So think about like what are the tokens people are going to onboard on? Like what's your launch day? Like what's the how much volume should we expect? And then we have liquidity we want to deploy, and we want to use that specifically to help that onboarding for those chains. So that's like a pain point we want to solve right at chain launch. Establish a
mm,
partnership early, help as an ongoing basis. Like here's what onboarding, offboarding flows you're seeing. Here's where we can make that even easier for your users. So that's one thing. And then the second is trying to find like other things we can do that will make the DEX like win for the other chain as well. This is a little bit harder to do, I think, but we have a few ideas. So one thing is, I think for all the Eureka chains, we haven't fully finalized this, but I think something like this we will do. Using something like half the protocol fees on those pools. So let's say Babylon, like the baby pool, use half of those fees to buy an LP, the baby token. Drives alignment with that chain, like half the fees there going directly to help improve liquidity for them. And also helps Stride DEX. Like now we have protocol and liquidity on the chain, helps make us a bigger trading venue for those
interesting.
teams.
Mm,
Yeah. And then we're hoping to do other stuff as well, like incentive matching. So like if other teams are willing to do incentives, we'll match them either with Stride token or maybe like redirecting some protocol revenue. Might do like custom features for these teams. Mainly what we're thinking is there's so much leverage on the first 20
mm,
Eureka customers. We
mm,
want to do everything we can to land those. Like once you build those network effects early on, you get a ton of value from them during a lot of usage. And
yeah.
then every subsequent sale is much easier.
Do you have enough bodies? Like, do you do it in separation of the effort that Magnus is doing, or are you doing it together? Or you're all in the same group? Like, well, how does that look like in reality?
Yeah, but probably a combination. My guess is they probably have tons of meetings without us, and then when they want to talk about things like liquidity or how onboarding flows will
That's
go,
what I'm getting.
we'll be much more involved there. And then we'll have separate conversations too to take that further.
Got it. And so the next 12 months, the focus would be this bridge and just onboarding customers plus DEX, right? Effectively.
Exactly, yeah. And on my mind, they're very similar. We're really focusing on the onboarding part of the funnel that's around the DEX and
Mm,
particularly like how can the DEX really like enable these flows. I mean, maybe to give you like one example of kind of what we're thinking. We've been doing a lot of digging into like the aggregator volume in Cosmos and what retail users do. So looking at like a breakdown of different types of trades, like what tokens do users trading into and out of what sizes. And then our hope is that we're striking a bunch of like deals for liquidity with the different entities. And then we're hoping to deploy those specifically for these kinds of trades. So hoping to do like the same thing here for the Eureka volume. So think of like what types
mm,
of bridging volume are we getting? Okay, it's usually under $5,000. Let's make sure we always have $5,000 at the best bidder ask, and
mm.
can deploy a bit more smartly there. And it might be like it might not be like very value generating as an LP. Like it might be like break even. But think of it like the loss leader to make the DEX more profitable or attract more usage.
Um, and are you going to give Stride incentives? Uh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we will, but not terribly many. In the past, I think we've been more liberal with incentives, and they work sometimes, not work other times. I think our takeaway is like, yeah, our takeaway is I think there's times we have like a flywheel that seems like it is working, and then the incentives really help you to like help choose that. But oftentimes you might have something that is really not like a very effective product, and the incentives are not helpful there. I think we're hoping to first like we are pretty lucky, I would say, because we have some like low hanging fruit for like flow or volume that we can get from other apps on Cosmos Hub or Eureka. From that, I think hoping to get like some sense of what features are impactful or driving more volume that makes sense to like incentivize.
So you don't plan to use Stride as like the LP pair or something, right?
No,
There might
no,
be
no.
Atom incentives.
There might be stride incentives too, but I think they won't be like a huge amount of
Okay.
incentives.
Because it seems like it's an interesting place to use, like staked Atom that is Stride as the base pair and kind of
Yeah.
force. I don't know if is that part of the plan.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I just thought about this quite a lot. The one challenging thing is a lot of users want Atom at the end. Like they don't actually want staked Atom.
Well,
Like if
yeah,
they're going to go on board to a SEX or do something else, like they often just want to use the Argo token.
yep.
And so it's hard to have like a lot of the liquidity or solely be ST Atom when users want Atom. I think what we do obviously run LST business, and it's been part
Mm,
of Stride. I think we're looking into right now is are there like idle pools of capital on the DEX that can be staked? So for example, like LP that is out of range sufficiently, and maybe when you
mhm.
LP that, you opt into like, hey, I want to earn additional yield, I'll take on this additional risk. Then maybe we can have a lot of the assets in the DEX kind of staked and earning yield, but I don't think it can be all of them.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Do you feel like Osmosis would be competition in any sort when you're going through this effort? Are they going to
Yeah,
do the same thing? Yeah. Yeah.
no, I mean, it's a great question. Our hope is that I think to not be competitive with Osmosis, and in some sense, I think we're definitely going to be somewhat competitive. Like they're a DEX in Cosmos, we're a DEX in Cosmos. But for the first year, for example, I think we have very specific, like two very specific customers. Neither of whom are Osmosis customers. Like it's the Eureka
Yeah.
chains,
Yeah.
and then it's the Cosmos Hub DeFi apps. Those are like
Mm,
inaccessible to Osmosis.
mm,
And then on top of that, I think we're focusing on like token liquidity for like these new Eureka type chains like Ondo or Babylon or a lot of these customers that Barry Maglar talked about. But for
mm,
Osmosis, I think they're trying to focus on Bitcoin. They're building Polaris. They have like a very compelling and good vision. But I think it's just
mm,
a different customer base. They're focusing like on unifying a bunch of different ecosystems.
mm.
So definitely a little bit competitive, but I think we're very focused on just a very specific customer group early on.
It seems like Magnus have conversation with you both, and then Osmo is like, that's really cool, but we got a bunch of stuff going on. And for you, it's like this is really great. You're 100% of our focus, and that's ultimately the swing factor that made them decide to work closely. Is that the right way to think about this? Because why do I ask this? Vishal, is because uh, like I'm thinking about alignment, and I don't know. In Magnus' mind, he probably needs somebody that really spends 100% of their time on Atom. And I don't know also if they plan to own a lot of the Stride tokens to further align the incentive
Yeah.
when the conversation happens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is totally right. So for Osmosis, obviously, I think was a natural candidate to also be the kind of DEX that really helps unlock Eureka,
Mm,
like the IBC native Eureka DEX. But I think for them, they have a lot of like really one like good business lines going on. I think also just
mm,
interest of things they're trying to build out. Like they've been working on Polaris for a long time. Been working on Bitcoin Moses or sorry, I actually don't know how to pronounce this on Twitter, BTC
yep.
Moses
Yeah.
Moses, sorry. They just have like these efforts are going like well. And I think they are excited about them. They've been Cosmos for a long time.
Mm,
But I don't think they want to focus all of their efforts on Atom or kind of be fully part of just of Atom and be on the Cosmos Hub or whatever else it might entail. Um, for us, it was something we thought about for a long time. Like, truthfully, I think we've been a little bit like just worried about the Cosmos Hub over the last like 2 years. It's been there's been some big initiatives with them that are canned out or It's been kind of a big leakage of users, has been a ton of product direction. And so we weren't really sure how it was going to be after Barry and Mag took over. But it's honestly, we've had been pretty inspired by them and been pretty impressed with what they've accomplished. We've had like a soft spot for Cosmos for a long time. When we first built in Cosmos, we'd been users for about a year. Before that, we're incredibly excited then still about app chains, and I've really wanted the ecosystem to kind of grow and be part of that. And I think now we're excited that there's a clear path to getting there, where it feels like it hasn't been for a while. And I think we're fully committed, and we're happy to be fully committed to the Cosmos Hub and help build out that vision. And for Osmosis, I think they have their own vision. It's not any less good, but just different.
Would the ICF or ICL purchase a big slug of Stride through OTC and open market to like further align the incentive, or do you think that's not what they're going to do?
It's possible. I think that they might be open to it, but it's they haven't committed to anything like that yet. But they are making investment in Stride. I think it was something they're open to, but I think legally they haven't done open market purchase or anything ever in the past, and so operation, I'm not sure how else it would be. But hopefully they keep getting Stride and they're continue to be aligned with the protocol.
And this DEX effort is self-funded. How much grants are they paying you per month to like facilitate this?
Yeah, I don't know if they're disclosing the amount.
Okay, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah,
it's my job to ask. You don't have to tell me.
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. But it's a reasonable amount, and I think so. This is a very big effort for us. Like, we're all in on this. Like, this is 100% our focus. It's a big bet. Like, we're very confident in it, but this is like we're betting everything on this kind of being a huge Eureka, really growing, and seeing what we can do to help that. But at the same time, I think they're also making a very big bet on us. Like the DEX is a big part of this Eureka vision and their next roadmap for the hub. The hub DeFi ecosystem revolves around the DEX. As a result, they're making, I think, a pretty reasonably sized investment to Stride. But I think it's very like there's a lot for both of us to do to help the other person.
That's very helpful. How would you? I mean, Stride is so hard to buy. I mean, if you're retail, like you can, but do you plan to do anything to improve the liquidity of this coin at all?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a big pain point, and the token is very hard to buy right now. It's something we've been working on. It's been a little challenging in Cosmos. Like the overall volumes and users have gone down, so the natural volumes got down. It's a little hard to kind of resuscitate that cycle. We've been trying to strike some deals more recently, and should go live soon to help increase liquidity with a few like market makers, as well as I think as when the DEX actually comes out, you have like a lot more control over like you can pair things with the token, or you can like direct incentives or make the pool fee free or whatever else it is to help make the token more liquid. I think once Stride actually is a DEX, like token liquidity should hopefully be increased a ton. But it's also right now, like I'd say a big thing that we're thinking about. Like part of this building out this DEX, I think, and building is we want to make the token more accessible because it's also part of the product, or at least it helps enable, like like it's synergized with the DEX itself, and so want to make that a big push.
Yeah, I think it plays well with the DEX that you're building, and in particular with Eureka too. Would you consider like wrapping your token and then bridging it over to, let's say, Ethereum, and then creating an LP pair there so that people can also buy it more easily?
Yeah, I think we're not opposed to this. So in full transparency, we actually don't do any of these things on chain. Someone else does, but I think we'd be open to someone doing that. The only thing is, in the past, people have done this, and we haven't seen very great liquidity for these tokens on other chains. So even like Atom, we bridged over to, I think Strive was the one who did this, bridged over to Arbitrum, and I didn't see very much adoption or trading of the token there. In general, we don't see that much of this across any ecosystem. There are some like memes that are exceptions, but in general, it's true. I think there's like a loyal user base of people who trade a token, and they tend to live on like one exchange or one website or one venue. And when you bridge somewhere else, those users aren't familiar with Stride, are unlikely to buy it. But we are looking to ways to make the token kind of more liquid in Cosmos.
Do you feel like with this DEX and the Atom relationship, is there anything else we haven't covered yet?
That's a great question.
I think we covered quite a bit. I think the only thing left would be like if there are any other products, like lending. But I don't know. You got a full plate, so you kind of want to crush the DEX first before thinking about anything else. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think in most ecosystems, dexes are just so like having a good dex is so good for the ecosystem. Having a bad dex is so bad, but good
Mm,
dexes can really capture so much value, and it's much more like perps is a little bit more, I think, and maybe meme coin launchpad with pump fund.
mm,
But in general, it's like one of the highest like value capture protocols in any ecosystem, and I think it's where we want to make almost all our focus.
yeah.
And then I think if and when that's successful, we can start like expanding more product suites, vertically integrate a little bit more.
Mm.
Definitely mainly focus on the decks.
Is there
If,
anything else that you thought like has execution risk or like keeps you up at night? It's like, oh, this might not work. That we haven't discussed yet. It seems pretty clean. I thought this is exciting because I mean your market cap is under 30 million FDV. If you hit anywhere close to the revenue target, and you get comp to DEX right away, and because it's so thin, I don't know how much float is out there. You probably own a bunch yourself. Like this should really just work. Um,
yeah, we're hoping so. I think yeah yeah. I mean, we've thought about this for quite a while, and I think we have a good structure here. Like it really does move a lot of ingredients, and I think that the key things for us is we have a guaranteed customer base with repeat customers, and they have a burning need. And as long as we can do a good job addressing that need, we know
mm,
we're going to get that volume, and we're fully kind of dedicated to addressing that need. Then there's like the Hub DeFi ecosystem, like they also need a DEX. I think we'll be like kind of the de facto location for that. And then these Cosmos retail aggregator volume. Again, if we do a good job there, we get a lot of that flow. There is some execution risk here. Like we have to make sure we do a good job. So that means we have to make sure we get liquidity commitments, make sure we can get like do a good job managing liquidity when we deploy it. Make sure we actually understand what users want. Like make sure like user A is going from or like or where users bridging from, where they're bridging to. Like
yeah.
get to understand that deeply. So we have to do a good job of this. But I think if we do, we have a really good setup here.
Mm. Who's your auditor, by the way?
We use informal systems right now, so we've done like 12 audits with them.
Mm,
They are by far the best in Cosmos, I think. We have a lot of great auditors in Cosmos, but Informal
yeah.
develops the core Cosmos SDK. Like they're like
Mm,
the ones making everything. Great auditors.
okay. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But we might look into other auditors for EVM. Informal is also good at that, but we're just less familiar with EVM, and so it's possible there's other good auditors we should look into.
Yeah. Zalek, Halborn, happy to intro. We can do it. We can do it offline. That's all I have. Let's see if the group has any questions. Give it 3 seconds. Um, okay, that's it from me. Vishal, thank you so much for your time. This is very helpful.
Thanks so much, Jason. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, it was a pleasure.